We're live. Hello, everyone. It's a blustery cold and I am all warmed and cozied up in my sweater. Let's see. Let me get my cameras all ready. Sorry, there was a little bit of a headache getting on here. Hi, welcome. As you guys know, I hope you know, I'm Aimee. Oh, that's gonna bother me. That plug in the background. I'm such a nerd. Okay, now I think I'm ready. I am Aimee of aimeeraupp.com, and it is so lovely to see everyone. I'm grateful that I'm able to come live because it is so it's nasty and wintry out there. I was afraid I was gonna lose service. So anyway, super, super happy to be here with you guys. And for those of you that are new to me, welcome. I am, again, Aimee Raupp of aimeeraupp.com. I am a best-selling author, a women's health and fertility expert. I've been a practitioner of Chinese medicine I've been in clinical practice for 17 years, but studying and learning Chinese medicine for 21 years, which is a really long time. And prior to that, I was a biologist and chemist and have studied neuroscience, all sorts of stuff. I'm a bit of a nerd and proud of it. And I am on a mission to, what I think most people know me as is I help women get and stay pregnant. But what I really do is I help women reawaken their health, reawaken their vitality, live their best lives possible. And from that space gives birth to the vitality that is necessary to get and stay pregnant. So the way we see it in Chinese medicine, it's about an overflow, it's about an abundance, it's about qi and blood and essence overflowing. And then from there, we can get and stay pregnant. And so this month we are focusing on common misconceptions. If you missed it, last week I did the misconception on coffee and alcohol. I think the prior week, I can't even remember what I did on the misconception on the prior week, but it's in my IG live section in my posts and Facebook. It's on my video feed. And this week we're going to do what I think is a really important one. It's a really important one to me because of the common recommendations I make, and it comes up all the time. So we're going to talk about vitamin A and pregnancy and the big misconception around vitamin A, fertility, and conception. And so in this book, yes, you can get pregnant, which again is my best-selling fertility book. So I highly recommend, if you're new to me and you want to do all you can do to optimize your health and your fertility, this is the place to start. You can go to my website, aimeeraupp.com/books, and learn where to buy that book, wherever books are sold typically. But I'm a big fan of, you'll see in the book on page 94 where I recommend certain supplements. I'm a big fan of cod liver oil. And then also in the food section, I'm a big fan of eating liver. And I typically recommend about a 3.5 to 4 ounce portion of liver a week. And when it comes to cod liver oil, I typically recommend one tablespoon per day in here, but you could get away with 1 to 2 teaspoons as well, just kind of depending on the case. And so this is the cod liver oil that I love to recommend. Green Pastures, it comes in pill and liquid form. And then I actually have some liver here too, somewhere, or I had it. I brought some home, but Dr. Ron's liver pill, everything is on my website under Aimee's recommended supplements. So if you go to aimeeraupp.com, you'll see Aimee's recommended supplements, and you can go over there and see all my recommendations. But so I typically recommend, like I said, the equivalent of 3.5 to 4 ounces of liver every week, which is different than cod liver oil, which is basically my recommendation of fish oil. But I recommend cod liver oil because of the vitamin A and vitamin D that naturally occurs in cod liver oil. And so again, like I said, about 1 to 2 teaspoons, up to a tablespoon a day of cod liver oil, and about 3 to 4 ounces a week of liver pills, which comes out to be, it's about 1,000 milligrams of liver a day, 1 gram a day, something like that. But I want to talk to you about vitamin A. And so just so you know, my resources for today, this book by Lily Nichols, amazing book, Real Food for Pregnancy. Highly recommend it once you are pregnant. And then also some papers from the Weston A. Price organization, which is where I learned a lot about ancestral nutrition, going back 15 years ago, 16 years ago when I first started practicing. I studied ancestral nutrition through the Weston A. Price organization, and I was inspired by a client of mine who I give full credit to in this book. And a client of mine, Naomi, and she turned me on to Weston A. Price, which is where I started understanding more about ancestral nutrition. And I saw such great overlaps with Chinese medicine, because Chinese medicine, we strongly recommend eating organ meats. We strongly recommend eating good quality fats, high fat foods. We strongly recommend bone broth and all of these nutrient dense foods, which Western medicine and even Western nutrition at that time, especially 15, 16 years ago when I was first practicing, wasn't so much recommending. So you could go all the way back to my first book, Chill Out and Get Healthy, and see that my recommendations throughout this book are really consistent with current, what you would call maybe paleo or ancestral diet. But long before anybody even had a term, I don't think there was such a term as paleo. And so I want you, if you want to go all the way back and understand about diet, this is where you will see that, one thing I'm very proud of as a practitioner who's been practicing for a long time is the level of what I would call integrity that I have had. And yes, I am tooting my own horn, but that I have consistently recommended the same diet and the same supplements for almost 20 years. And so to keep that in mind, because I want to see where I give credit to Naomi, but I can't seem to find it. Because practitioners change their tune all the time based on current fads and things of that nature. And I always joke that, like, I've been recommending bone broth for 20 years. I've been recommending liver and organ meat for 20 years. I've been recommending cod liver oil for probably 15 years, right? And so I feel very proud of that consistency. And it's all based in what I would say is the traditional Chinese medicine diet, and then also ancestral nutrition. And so vitamin A, I want to talk to you about, I think Lily Nichols does such a good job of wrapping up what vitamin A is and why we need it, especially for pregnancy, but also for preconception. Right, I don't follow trends, I follow science. Thank you. I also follow, not even science, I follow what I would call is like clinical data. Do you know what I mean? Like when I wrote Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, I just went and said, okay, so women in my grandmother, her generation and older, they were having these like accidental pregnancies or multiple pregnancies. They weren't having fertility challenges, and they were getting pregnant all the way from 20 until their late 40s, right? What the hell were they doing that we're not doing? And they were eating raw eggs right from their farm in their backyard. They were eating organ meats. They were eating bone broths. They were eating butter. Everything was fresh made. There was no pesticides. There was no hormones. They cooked all their foods. They went down the street to the butcher. My mother talks about, well, she was eating like raw ground beef with raw egg yolks. That was like a snack for her and her brothers and sisters. It would be like chopped up on the kitchen table. Her mother would mix in the egg to the raw chopped meat, and they would just go in handfuls and eat it. No one got sick. There was no E. coli because there was no factory raised cows at that time. And so I went back and I looked. So it is science, I agree, but it's also it's clinical data, and it's ancestral data. It's like, what were our ancestors doing? Because I actually do think it was working for them. Obviously, there was other concerns like bacteria and things of that nature that we got even better at, but to look at their diet from that perspective. And then also, kind of, I always say, like, I grew up in a Chinese medicine school. That's when I really formed a better relationship with food and understanding nutrition. And I would watch my professors. They're all from China. They're all medical doctors from China or very esteemed herbalists from China. And in each season, they ate the organs of that season. So in the winter, we ate kidney. In the summer, we ate heart. We always ate some liver. We would eat lungs if there was a lung disease. So they were very keen on this, like getting the nutrients from these organs, and then always bone broth, always congees, always soups, always colorful vegetables, always good quality protein and fat. So to really think about all that, that it was really based in this, ancestry and like what we did and how we lost our way. And we lost our way when we started modifying food sources, which is a big issue with the vitamin A, which is why I want to get into it of like, there's a huge freaking difference between vitamin A that naturally occurs in foods as what we would call, like naturally formed retinol versus carotene. And so when vitamin A is occurring in a food source, like liver, which is a high amount of vitamin A, or like cod liver oil, again, a high amount of vitamin A that many gynecologists, fertility doctors will flag right away and get a girl to get off of it because they don't want to have vitamin A toxicity, which I'm going to get into the one study that talks about vitamin A toxicity and how it's one of those epidemiological studies that you guys know I don't like and is really kind of reckless and poor information. But there's a huge difference between vitamin A that naturally occurs in food, especially with vitamins D and K, like it does in liver and in cod liver oil, that you cannot ever experience toxicity. The only way you can experience toxicity in those organ meats is literally 6 tablespoons of cod liver oil a day, which I would never recommend, and eating 1,000 grams of liver in a week. Like eating the liver of a seal or of a whale. Yeah, could cause toxicity, but you don't die from it. You actually just stop eating it and the toxicity goes away. So I don't recommend that, right? 3 to 4 ounces of liver a week, max 1 tablespoon of cod liver oil a day, but even 1 to 2 teaspoons is perfectly great. So vitamin A, when it comes to being pregnant and fertility, vitamin A helps regulate gene expression and fetal growth with specific roles in development of heart, eyes, ear, limbs, and the immune system. Lack of vitamin A can lead to serious malformations, including improperly formed craniofacial structures, limbs, and internal organs. Most of us have been taught that plant foods are a good source of vitamin A. But it's important to recognize that plants don't contain true preformed vitamin A. Which is called retinol. Rather, they contain provitamin A, which are carotenoids. So it is said that we basically can convert carotenoids to retinol, but most of us are compromised in that capability. And we actually need about a 6-to-1 ratio of carotenoids, so that's plant-sourced vitamin A to food-sourced, animal-sourced vitamin A to actually get what we need. So keep that in mind too. So this means your body must convert carotenoids, that's from the plants, to retinol, which is the vitamin A from animal sources. However, this conversion rate is quite low in many individuals. You might think you can just eat a lot of sweet potatoes and carrots and flood your system with the provitamin A, but that's unlikely to help because the more beta carotene you eat, the less you convert to vitamin A. Simply put, you need to eat preformed vitamin A in the form of animal sources such as full-fat dairy. If you guys don't have an autoimmune condition, you can do the dairy. Eggs, liver, cod liver oil. And so also I love Lily Nichols for a lot of reasons. But one thing, and her and I did do a Instagram live together. So you guys can find that. We did it on this book too, because I'm kind of obsessed with her. She has a whole section in her book, just like I do in my books, on liver. And she calls livers nature's multivitamin. I call it nature's B complex. Aside from eggs, liver is the only other major dietary source of choline. So choline is imperative to getting and staying pregnant, by the way. You need a lot of choline in your diet, especially if you have an MTHFR mutation. And you guys can watch. I have other documents and information on MTHFR. Liver is the single richest source of iron. And it's called heme iron, so it's well absorbed. It doesn't cause constipation. Low iron status during pregnancy is a risk factor for preeclampsia, hypothyroidism, preterm birth. Liver is one of the richest food sources of folate and vitamin B12. So I have a funny story. So long before MTHFR was like this huge conversation, like I said, I've been recommending liver for almost 2 decades to any woman. But when I wrote Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, I realized like liver was really important for fertility. So go back, I realized this probably in like 2010. I wrote Yes, You Can Get Pregnant in 2014 or 2013. so I started putting all of my fertility girls on liver. I was getting them from Dr. Ron's. I still get them from Dr. Ron's. They're currently out of stock, but they'll be back in a couple weeks. But there's other sources now, grass-fed liver in pill form, or you can eat grass-fed liver. But so anyway, started recommending liver, and I swear, and any of my complicated cases started getting pregnant, just like that, boom, boom, boom. I had a 46-year-old get pregnant naturally. I was like, what the hell? I think it's the liver. I think it's the liver. So then fast forward to now, the last couple years, all the talk of the MTHFR mutation, come to realize I was actually compensating for the MTHFR mutation by giving my clients liver and recommending them to eat 2 egg yolks a day. Just that alone actually compensates for the MTHFR mutation. Now we know too that we have to remove all folic acid, which I have a whole conversation about this, so I'm not going to get into it in detail here, but realizing that in the liver, I was giving them the vitamin A, I was giving them the vitamin D, I was giving them the choline, and I was giving them the heme iron and the methylfolate, which is what they needed. And then these women started getting pregnant. I was fascinated by this. So 1 ounce per liver contains up to 200 times more vitamin B12 than muscle meat does. The importance of B12 is commonly overlooked during pregnancy. Most women, they say too, there's current research now by a guy I follow, Chris Masterjohn. He's a brilliant PhD nutritionist. He talks about that the current recommended daily allowance of vitamin B12 is about 200 times less than it should be, especially for women trying to conceive. So, and if you have the MTHFR, I have an MTHFR guide. You guys can message us for it. But I talk in there about how you need basically 2-to-1 ratio of B12 to methylfolate if you have MTHFR. So that's upwards of a couple thousand micrograms or milligrams of B12 a day. So in fact, they now estimate that the true need for B12 is triple the current RDA status. Suffice to say, it's wise to err on the high end of B12. Again, B12 is a water-soluble vitamin, so you'll pee it out. The issue with vitamin A, and I'm going to get back to the toxicity thing, is that it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So similar to vitamin D, you can take too much, and it can become toxic. So let me get into some of the data and the research. And I know there's going to be lots of questions. I promise I'm going to get to them at the end, just because I have a lot prepared and don't want to miss it. So again, I want to answer this question real fast, though, this liver filter thing. Liver is the filter in the body, so it's actually the cleanest organ. It's not the dirtiest. If you live a clean lifestyle and do the things I tell you to do, your liver is even cleaner. But so we get liver from grass-fed animals only, cattle, beef, goose, any of those. I think chicken livers tend to have the highest nutrition, but beef is right behind it. So it's grass-fed, and I have a whole blog post. If you just Google search Aimee Raupp liver, you will see a whole blog post on liver and how it's not the dirtiest organ and how to find good sources, okay? And so I want to pull up some of my things. So there's another article called The Vitamin A Saga. It's put out by Weston A. Price. I highly recommend you read it. Any woman that comes to me and is worried about her vitamin A status, because now she's pregnant, she's been following my program, now she's pregnant, she goes to her doctor, and the doctor's like, you're taking too much vitamin A. You're going to have toxicity. You're going to have birth defects. You got to get off that cod liver. You got to get off that liver. They scare the shit out of my girls. I support my girls wherever they are at. I always meet them. So I am fine with maybe we cut back a little on liver, maybe we cut back a little on cod liver. But what I always recommend is to read this article. It's called The Vitamin A Saga. It's on the Weston A. Price organization website. So you could just Google search Vitamin A Saga and it will come up. And you become educated. You become educated about this and you make the best decision possible for you. It's the same thing with vaccines. It's the same thing with anything about becoming a parent and being in touch with your body. But I confidently recommend 3 to 4 ounces of liver a week, 1 to 2 teaspoons of cod liver oil a day in any woman who is trying, is pregnant, is breastfeeding. There is no toxicity information whatsoever on animal source-based vitamin A containing foods, unless, of course, you really overdo it, which I am not recommending. Which really overdo it means like 100 grams or 100 ounces of liver in a week, which I would never recommend, or 6 tablespoons of cod liver oil, even 2 tablespoons of cod liver oil, I wouldn't recommend. But once a woman is pregnant, I usually do double her dose, and I think it's very good for her. So I want to talk about, so again, same thing about people insist that you can get vitamin A from vegetables, which is misinformation because, again, the difference between keratin and retinol. You need to have certain enzymes in order to convert keratin to retinol, and you need to eat a lot of keratin, which isn't necessarily advised because the more keratin you eat, the less it's going to convert. You overwhelm the system. So you really need vitamin A from food sources, animal food sources like butter, egg yolks, liver, organ meats, shellfish. That's where you want to get it from. Under optimal conditions, humans can convert keratins to vitamin A. However, early studies indicate that an equivalency of 4:1 of beta carotene to retinol, in other words, 4 units of beta carotene were needed to produce 1 unit of vitamin A. Then they later revised this in research at 6:1. This means you have to eat an awful lot of vegetables to obtain the daily mineral requirements of vitamin A. So I'm not going to get into all this. Foods and vitamin A are really important for people with thyroid dysfunction, diabetes. So fat-soluble vitamin A foods are catalysts on which all other biological processes depend. Efficient mineral uptake and utilization of water-soluble vitamins requires sufficient vitamin A in the diet. Vitamin A ensures healthy reproduction and offspring with attractive wide faces, straight teeth, and strong, sturdy bodies. There's another book that really gets into this, and it is called Deep Nutrition. Highly recommend that as a read as well. Really goes into ancestral diet and all the little components to why. So, vitamin A helps with protein utilization. Growing children benefit from a diet that has vitamin A and protein. So this is what I want to get into. Recently, an expert panel recommended lowering the RDA, recommended daily allowance for vitamin A, from 5,000 IUs to about 2,500 IUs a day, and set an upper limit for 10,000. The panel was headed by a guy at Tufts University who warned that high levels of vitamin A intake may cause irreversible liver damage and birth defects. A few decades ago, though, women who were pregnant were routinely advised to take cod liver oil. 1 tablespoon of cod liver oil contains about 15,000 IUs of vitamin A, and 1 serving of liver contains about 40,000 IUs of vitamin A. One serving of liver is about 3 to 4 ounces. So the anti-vitamin A campaign began in 1995 with the publication of the Boston University School of Medicine. The study received extensive press coverage. It linked excess vitamin A to birth defects. But when you look deeper at the study, you realize they asked 22,000 women to respond to a questionnaire about their eating habits and supplements. Their responses were used to determine vitamin A status. As reported in the newspapers, researchers found that cranial neural crest defects increased with increased dosages of vitamin A. What the paper did not report was that the fact that neural tube defects decreased with increased vitamin A consumption, and that no trend was apparent with musculoskeletal, urogenital, or other defects. The trend was much less pronounced and less statistically significant when cranial neural crest defects were correlated with vitamin A consumption from food alone. So there's a lot of flaws in this study. No blood tests were taken. They did not weigh birth defects according to severity. And then the most serious flaw was that they failed to distinguish between, and this is it, guys, manufactured vitamin A in the form of retinol found in supplements, and added to fabricated foods from natural vitamin A complex and numerous cofactors. So it is well known that synthetic vitamins are less biologically active, hence less effective than naturally occurring vitamins. This is especially true of the fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A because they tend to be more complex. Natural vitamin A occurs as a mixture of various, I'm not going to get into all those words. So basically, if vitamin A is naturally occurring in a food source, it also has with it vitamin D and vitamin K, which are imperative to process and utilize vitamin A. So keep that in mind. You need, and most people have a low vitamin D status. Most people don't get enough vitamin K because they don't eat vitamin K rich foods. So if you're taking synthetic vitamin A, it is easy to get toxic on it. So you want to check out your prenatal vitamins, make sure what is the source that they're coming from. You want, I tend to look at, I have my list of my recommended prenatals on there. Those I've sussed out, and those are good sources of vitamin A. That's what I will say to you guys. Pure retinol, which is where things get toxic. And this is synthesized, synthetic, okay? This is not naturally occurring retinol. So make sure you understand the difference. Are added to fabricated foods like margarine, breakfast cereals, pizza. The study made no distinction between those women whose vitamin A was supplied by whole animal foods and those who ingested retinol added to margarine, white flour, etc., etc. Natural vitamin A provided by liver, eggs, butter, cream, and cod liver is well recognized as providing excellent protection against birth defects. So distinctions between synthetic and natural vitamin A have been absent in the extensive media coverage of this study. On the contrary, they tell women to avoid eating liver, dairy products, meat, and eggs, but no one is told to stop eating crappy breakfast cereals or margarine, which is fascinating to me. So a study carried out in Rome, Italy, found no congenital malformations among 120 infants exposed to more than 50,000 IUs of naturally occurring vitamin A per day. Another study from Switzerland looked at blood levels of vitamin A in pregnant women and found that the dose of 30,000 IUs per day resulted in blood levels that had no association with birth defects. So you guys, again, I want you to read this study yourself, but it's really and then there's also interesting research too about global campaign helping children with defects and disabilities in Africa and Asia, that when they give them high doses of vitamin A from food sources, they radically improve. So in 2000, over 90% of Nepalese children who received their yearly dosage of vitamin A, local women, so although vitamin A distributed in synthetic and not a natural form from fish oils, it is the animal form of vitamin A, not carotenes. Children 6 to 12 months old receive 2 doses of 100,000 units per year. Children over 12 months receive 200, and infant and child mortality has dropped by 23% when vitamin A levels are adequate. So people who have a hard time converting the carotene, which is in plant, into vitamin A, which is what we need, the retinol. So again, I know it gets confusing, but there's synthetic retinol and then there's naturally occurring retinol. What we want is naturally occurring retinol. We can also have naturally occurring carotenes from vegetables, but to understand that people who need the good quality vitamin A from animal sources, so if you're an infant or a child, if you have diabetes, if you have compromised thyroid function, if you don't eat enough fat, pancreatic disease, celiac, and sprue. And so there was one other thing I wanted to, so this is the other thing, so there's one, WebMD is very hysterical about their recommendation. Vitamin E can be very toxic when taken in high dose supplements for long periods of time, and it can affect almost every part of the body. Blah, blah, blah. Pregnant women who take amounts higher, not much higher than RDA, increase the risk of birth defects. High consumption of vitamin A may also increase gastric cancer. So scary. Merck Manual, which is what most physicians use, has a less hysterical. They say acute poisoning, vitamin A poisoning can occur in children after a single dose of synthetic vitamin A at 300,000 IUs. Or a daily dose of 60,000. So again, remember, one dose of cod liver oil is about 15,000 IUs, and one serving of liver, which I recommend over a whole week, is 40,000 IUs. So if you just do those two things, so what's 7 into 40? 7 times 4 is 28, right? Yeah. So 7 times 5, 35. So you're getting about 20,000 IUs a day of retinol, good quality vitamin A, and it should not, based on these data, would ever cause toxicity. And again, so the toxic range that they saw in the Merck manual is 300,000 IUs in a single dose or a daily dose of 60,000. So daily. So it's 3 times what I recommend. But again, this is synthetic vitamin A, not naturally occurring vitamin A. And then there's an unusual example of in adults, according to Merck Manual, vitamin A toxicity has been reported in Arctic explorers who developed drowsiness, irritability, headaches, taking several million units of vitamin A when they were eating polar bear or seal liver. So this article jokes, unless you're an Arctic explorer, it's virtually impossible to develop vitamin A toxicity from food. The putative dose of 100,000 IUs per day would be contained in 3 tablespoons of high vitamin cod liver oil or 6 tablespoons of regular cod liver oil, and then 2.5 100-gram servings of duck liver, about 3 100-gram servings of beef liver. So I recommend 1 gram a day or 1,000 milligrams. So that's 7 grams a week. And again, what I'm recommending is much lower than anything here. So to understand where the information is coming from, to understand the research, again, another person that I love, Chris Kresser, he talks about for preconception and pregnancy, a daily dose of high vitamin cod liver oil to obtain 20,000 IUs of vitamin A and 2,000 of vitamin D and 2 grams of omega-3. So it's about 1 3/4 teaspoons a day is what Kresser recommends. And then he also recommends eating liver a couple ounces a week. So same as me. And so to understand that, could we eat liver pate instead of liver? 100%. I have a really good liver pate recipe in this book. I recommend that. I do that sometimes myself. Again, 3 to 4 ounces a week. So most, you can, if you want 1 serving a week, like, so you sit down and you eat 3 ounces of pate, then that's your serving for the week. Okay, so I want to just go through, I think we have a lot of questions that have come through. Beth, you can tell me that you've answered a handful of them or not, but let's just see. Love that book. You guys are so, do I recommend cod liver and liver? Yes, I do. Again, you can check it out in the book. I have histamine sensitivities, it's cod liver. So I just wouldn't get the fermented cod liver oil. This is fermented. I would get the non-fermented, which is Rosita cod liver oil is the other brand. It's on my website. Okay. You guys are so sweet. Let's just see. Dr. Ron's beef liver, do you recommend taking in a day? Again, recommended 2 pills per day, usually of the Dr. Ron's. Okay. Other brands are on my website. So go to my website, aimeeraupp.com, see the recommended supplements page. That's where you're going to order everything. Okay. I have a high HDL. Does liver increase LDL? Yeah, eating good quality fatty foods will not negatively impact your cholesterol. I'll say that. And it's about the ratio, and cholesterol is usually high when there's too much inflammation in the body. So if you go on an anti-inflammatory diet, like what I recommend, and eat good quality fats and good quality protein and 6 to 8 servings of vegetables a day, your cholesterol will be fine. I've been taking 1 to 2 teaspoons of cod liver oil a day for about 10 years and 2 liver pills a day for about 10 years. And my cholesterol levels are phenomenal. How do you make sure, right? So I answered that. Such a great way to understand it. Oh, I'm so glad. In the store-bought liver pate. There is a good one that I find at Whole Foods. It does have dairy in it, but it's a good quality one. It's D'Artagnan, I think. It's Au Poisson. It's French, AUX Poisson. That's it. And I think there's a couple different varieties, but there's a basic one with very little extra stuff that I'll buy sometimes. But it does have dairy, so anybody who's dairy can't have it. Only slightly related. Carnivore diet in pregnancy. I haven't. Carnivore I think doesn't have enough vegetables personally, but maybe search my YouTube, maybe optimal vitamin A recommend health pregnancy. So I've already covered that. And also, if you guys want more information, I want you to go read the Vitamin A Saga, Get Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols. But it's about 15,000 IUs a day. 20,000 IUs a day of vitamin A from food sources is optimal for fertility and pregnancy. Okay, you guys are great. Okay. Yeah, I have once a week. Good job. How many cod liver pills? I've been taking 2 of the pills you recommend. So you really need like 6 to 8 pills to get up to that teaspoon a day. How do you get in 6 to 8 servings of veg a day? I have about 2 in each meal, and that's how I do it. Or I make my liver support juice from my book Body Belief, and I have that once a day, and that's about 3 servings. And then I get the rest in between meals. With meals. Um, okay, and so let me just see on Facebook. I think Beth's been doing a good job of answering everything. Okay, so Beth is on top of that. It's been recommended that I take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. Yeah, so if you're taking like 1 teaspoon of cod liver oil, you're also getting 2,000. So factor that in. That's 2,000 vitamin D in there. So then an extra 3,000. So I would try to find grass-fed liver if you're in Mexico, or see if you can find another grass-fed liver pill. We have various recommendations on my site for the US, but then email us because we have things outside of the US too for different supplements that we recommend. You can take the pills orally or sprinkle them, either way you want. MFM is maternal fetal medicine doctor. Okay. Does an under eye cream with retinol? So probably it's toxic. That's probably synthetic retinol. I wouldn't use it personally. All right. Congratulations, Olga. 47, getting pregnant. Cheap ones, are they good of cod liver oil? Typically not, because they add their own synthetic vitamin A and vitamin D. You want vitamin A and D naturally occurring. You don't want any added vitamin A or D. You want the ingredients to basically say fermented cod liver oil. That's what the ingredient says here. Where do you buy your liver meat? So I get mine from either northstarbison.com. I have it all in my book. I'm blanking on the other place where I will order it from. And then I typically just take the liver though in pill form. But then there's also a place near me in town. It's a butcher that has all organic grass-fed liver. So I buy it from him too. It's frozen. I think liquid's more cost effective for the cod liver oil. It's more cost effective. I take this every day. My whole family takes this every day. It's more cost effective. So that's what I'll say there. Yeah, so Butcher Box doesn't have liver actually, Beth, but so I either get it from North Star Bison, northstarbison.com. Look on their website. I definitely talk about it in here. And I also talk about it, I talk about it in the liver blog. So just Google Aimee Raupp and liver, and that blog will come up, and I talk about it there too, where I get it from. Okay. We did it, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna go because I need a little break and I'm hungry. I'm gonna go have some bone broth and take my supplements for the day. And I'll see you guys next week. But I hope you enjoyed this. Again, check out the Vitamin A Saga. Maybe Beth, you could post those links. The Vitamin A Saga, Weston A. Price. This book, Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols. The other book, Deep Nutrition, Catherine Shanahan. And then, of course, Chris Kresser, and he's got a couple different articles on vitamin A, so you could just Google Chris Kresser and vitamin A. But those are all really good sources for you guys to take your knowledge another step further. I'm all about empowering you and not just spoon feeding you the information. I want you to take back the control over your health and your fertility, okay? Love you guys. Goodbye. Let me hang up here and live video.